So great to have you all here. Welcome. I think we start because we have a very full program today. Yes. So welcome to the first E³UDRES² open lecture to inspire. Today with the topic of entrepreneurial and innovation mindset. And with this open lecture, we want to inspire innovative entrepreneurship, give best practice, give tools, and connect on a European level. My name is Birgit Zimula, and I'm team member of the E³UDRES² core office team located in St. Pölten in the University for Applied Sciences. And for those who are not very familiar with E³UDRES, E³UDRES is a university alliance consisting of 9 European universities and universities of applied sciences. And we are a network working very closely together with these new 9 universities to come up with new ways in the field of research, innovation, teaching, knowledge transfer to get really strengthening our regions. So think international, act locally. So to come to the organizational part, if you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat function. We will have now the 3 lectures in a row, and after each lecture, the lecturer have the possibilities to answer 1 to 2 questions depending on the time. And otherwise, we will answer the questions directly into the chat or after the event. Yeah, so that you are not longer on the edge of your seat, I will give the floor to our very first speaker. He's from the Netherlands, and his name is MAARTEN. I hope I pronounced it in the right way. And he's lecturer and researcher from the SAXION Center for Entrepreneurship. And he will talk about why every startup should think international. So MAARTEN, the stage is yours and you are ready to share your screen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Birgit. Thank you for your introduction. It is not so sunny and nice weather in the Netherlands. However, I'm very happy to be part of this lecture, and you've made a very sunny start here. I will share my screen. Hopefully everyone can see it. Is it visible?
Yep, it is.
Okay, very good. As Birgit said, I'll be talking for the next half hour about why every startup should think international. It's a bit of a provocative title, and I'll take you through things. First, let me just quickly tell you a little bit about myself so you have an idea who's talking to you. My name, again, is MAARTEN Basbacker. I am a lecturer and coach here at the Center for Entrepreneurship at SAXION, University of Applied Sciences in the Netherlands. I've put a small collage of pictures up here just to give you an idea of the things I've done in the past. I worked in new media and ICT. I've had an agency, been an entrepreneur myself in Amsterdam. I've worked in content marketing, and I've worked in e-commerce for Expedia, which is a large American travel agency. That's just to give you a quick view of some of the things I've done. Today at the SAXION Center for Entrepreneurship, I support student entrepreneurs in their journey going from 0 to 1, starting up a new company, bringing a new idea into life. And these students have different backgrounds ranging from textiles and technologies to studying law or business or maybe architecture. And what they have in common is that they are all starting a business. At the Center of Entrepreneurship, we have on average, some 75 startups every year. Might be a bit more, a bit less, depending on, but they are spread out over different minor programs we have, and also extracurricular programs. But the main reason I'm actually showing you these numbers right now is that of all these students who are running their startups, who are setting up their business, only a very small percentage that I have encountered actually consider themselves to be international as a startup. This is not scientific research. These are just my numbers. Quick, just a quick range that I'm getting. So that is a pretty small percentage. I don't know if the people here in this who are listening to this right now, how many people have a startup, and how many people here consider themselves to be international. Before we even go into what that means, anyone? Yeah, I see some. Oh, I see one hand, I think. Okay. Well, that's not a lot, but that seems quite similar to the numbers I've been getting, maybe even a bit worse. So, well, this kind of goes to the fuller topic of what I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to be using the Strategic Entrepreneurial Internationalization framework by Professor E³UDRES². He's a professor from Finland with Imperial College in London right now. I have been using his framework that I found online and read his paper for a while now. It's a really good tool, I think, for startups to kind of broaden their horizon and start thinking about internationalization. And I think, as we dive into the framework very briefly during the coming half hour, that hopefully I'll give you enough reasons to do the same and to maybe think of yourself, start thinking of yourself as an international company. I think the main point that Professor E³UDRES² makes is that very often we think of internationalization as something that businesses start to do after a certain point. So first they grow a business that is successful to some degree at home, and then they make the next step to become international. What E³UDRES² says is actually becoming international is something you can start doing from day one and not something you should wait for. So let's have a look. In what ways could you go international? I think it might be nice to start with this question. Does anyone want to put anything in the chat or maybe even say something? In what ways can you go international? What does it even mean to go international? What are some of the ways? You can put keywords in the chat if you like. Distributors working with international students, partnerships, getting to know foreign laws, international business angels, so investors coming from another country that invest in your business, I would assume, right? Anything else? Looking at different countries, and that could be in many different ways, I suppose. So this is a very wide range of things that you guys are saying. In fact, I don't think that going international would have to mean selling abroad. A lot of people do think of selling as one of the first things, having a broader impact. Someone else just said right now. I agree. Having a social impact could be across borders as well, especially. But I think the point is that you don't need to sell products abroad in order to become an international company. There's many other ways to become international. I think that's a really important point to remember as we move on. So before we move on the topic of international, what is another really crucial thing that you want to have in place for your company if you want to have a happy and bright future? What is something every startup should think about? What is one of the most crucial things? Again, just put some things in the chat. Resources, money, yes, I would agree. What else? Network, financial sustainability, yes. And what type of thing? What type of thing would be able to secure all of this? Having a good product? Yeah. What makes a good product? How would we call that? How would we call all of this when you kind of combine all of the things you guys mentioned? Being innovative, it's probably another part of it, could be. Knowledge might be another part of it, being unique. So there is a term that we tend to use that kind of combines a lot of the things you guys are mentioning: digital, USPs, value proposition. I think we're getting closer here, closer. USPs, value proposition. So what I'm thinking of is a competitive advantage. And that is a term that I think most of you are familiar with as well. And Michael Porter, who was the person who came up with the framework you see on the screen right now, he thinks of a competitive advantage as something that we want to build and sustain for a longer period of time. So the competitive advantage, just one more question here. Could anyone describe what that is in maybe a couple of words? A competitive advantage? Might be a bit more difficult.
Maybe I can try something.
Go ahead.
I would say that would be to have a value proposition or value comparing to your competition in a way that it's not easy to copy. That you become a core competence, like for your startup or company.
I think you kind of nailed it there. You know, that's pretty much it in my view as well. So that you have positioned yourself in such a way in terms of your value proposition that that your position is secure, sustainable, and not easy to copy by your competitors. And what Michael Porter in his model over here argues is that you could do that in two very important ways. One is based on costs, so maybe offering a product which is cheaper than that of competitors. And another way is to really differentiate the product itself, so make it very unique in some way or another. So it might be the way it looks, it could be in branding, it could be maybe using innovation. But those are two different ways. And then across of those, there's one third way to create competitive advantage, and that's by either focusing on a small group, like specializing on a small target group within the market, or remaining broader for a broader market. So across those three different dimensions, you could find a competitive advantage. And I think a lot of new ventures, a lot of startups will probably not go for which one. For which are most startups not going to go, if you look at the 4 over here? And I think most business students will be aware of these 4 different ways of differentiating yourself. So, in fact, I think most startups will probably exactly not go for cost leadership. To really become a cost leader, like the Action stores, you know, where you buy all the cheap goods from China, that requires, you know, to have bigger companies are better at it, basically, for various reasons that we're not going to go into right now. But I think a lot of startups will look at differentiation in some way or another, maybe cost focus, you know, focusing on a very small group of people, like maybe French-speaking women living in Germany. You know, that could be like a small group of people to focus on something that bigger companies are forgetting about. You don't have the time and energy, and they don't really care. You know, they're not going to make enough money there. But for you as a startup, that could be a really great group of people to focus on, perhaps. So they might be looking at those areas to create a competitive advantage. So this is really crucial for a lot of businesses, and exactly, cost leadership. So to create that competitive advantage, well, we don't want to be stuck in the middle. That's another thing, by the way. But in order to create that competitive advantage, we need some sort of source, some sort of ability that allows you to go for that competitive advantage. So the reason why you might choose for differentiating in some way or another might be that you have access to something, like, so for instance, maybe you have access to really cheap raw materials. Maybe you have access to really cheap wool. you know, and you decide to make wool sweaters in a certain way, and that gives you a very good profit margin. Or maybe you already have built a really strong brand identity. Maybe you even bought a brand that already exists, and you're going to use that to build, you know, to sell new products. And that's a way to differentiate yourself. Or maybe there's certain innovation that you came up with, or maybe certain knowledge that you have, or methods of production that allow you to create a cost advantage for a very specific target audience, so to cost focus, for instance. So there's always a source, like maybe high-skilled labor, or maybe certain knowledge that people have, or certain their ability to make something, certain skills that will allow you to choose one of these ways of creating competitive advantage. So there must always be a source for your competitive advantage. That's the point over here. So if you remember that, you know, and we simplify the whole thing, then you have a competitive advantage that is allowing your business to grow. And you're looking for that, and you're always trying to improve that. You're always trying to go from one competitive advantage to an even better one, because the better it gets, the more difficult it becomes for competitors to take your market away, and the better you become at acquiring more and more market. So you always want to move from a competitive advantage to an even better one, to improving, to sharpening it. So we could call that competitive advantage 2.0. And the idea of the framework we're talking about here, the SCI framework, the strategic entrepreneurial internationalization, is that you use internationalization to improve your competitive advantage. So you could basically use internationalization to find new sources for this better competitive advantage. So some of these sources you might already have. It might be your existing knowledge of the foreign market as you go abroad. It might be your existing network. So some things you already have as you go abroad. And then there's 4 drivers which were identified by Autio that he says are going to help you to improve your competitive advantage by going across the border. So let's take those one at a time. The learning orientation. So if you're going to go abroad, it's important to be open to new ideas and new people, right? So you need to be aware of cultural differences and be aware of the value that might be there for you. So if you're going to be closed, if you have a closed mindset, you're probably not even going to see any of the opportunities that might be out there. So it's having a growth and open mindset that is really important. And if you take this to another level, of course, there are certain processes you can even build into your business that will allow you to be more of a learning organization. But having a learning orientation, learning mindset is step 1 for you as a startup. The nice thing is that when you go abroad, or think of, you know, going to an international party and you talk to different people, what often happens is that as you are open to the stories that other people have, and as you learn from others, you become more acutely aware of who you are, of your specific niche, of what makes you unique. And often when you go abroad, you become more aware of that than when you stay at home. I think students that have been on exchange programs can probably relate to this, that when you go to another country, you become more aware of what makes you unique. So your unique selling points that some people already mentioned might become more obvious to you, as might other things, other sources of potential competitive advantage might become more obvious to you. So in this internationalization process, it's a good idea to become more aware of your niche, of your specific, you know, unique traits, and work on those, write those down, see if you can develop those. So these 2 kind of form a very strong base for strategic internationalization. Then this is one of the most interesting ones. It's called asymmetry exploitation. So let's first think of what asymmetry means. I have a picture here of different dishes from different countries, different foods, and obviously they are different. They're not symmetrical. They're not the same. So they're asymmetric. And that's basically what the word here means. It means there are differences. There are differences between countries, and noting these differences and writing them down and finding differences that are potentially interesting is key in this process. So let's go through a couple of examples here. When we look at the way we produce a product, so for instance, if you are producing handbags in your country, and now you go to a different country and you look at how they are producing handbags in that country, what are the differences? Is the quality different? The price of inputs of production, is the leather cheaper or more expensive? Is the quality different? Do they have a different type of leather industry with different skills, different skilled people? Maybe they're doing new combinations, so maybe they're using different dyes to create colored leather. Maybe there's different rules and regulations on what is allowed in terms of curing leather, which I think is could be a very polluting process. So there are a lot of things that might be different in your industry in terms of how the product is created, as is with the market. You know, the taste of the people in the market might be different. They might prefer different colors of leather or different types and shapes of bags, handbags. There might be trends that are different. Maybe the product life cycle is in a different stage. So especially when we talk about new products, like maybe a new type of mouse or something, you know, for your computer, then if it's new, you know, it's still very hyped, it's still very expensive, and then it goes through different stages and eventually becomes cheaper and imitated. In different countries, certain products might be in different stages of that evolution, and that could be really important. Also in terms of, you know, selling products, there might be different rules and regulations, or different marketing techniques, maybe different ways a product is sold. Maybe your product is sold at Tupperware parties in a different country, or maybe it's sold online more easily than in your own country. So these are all differences, and they're obvious, and maybe at first you hadn't even noticed, but when you really start looking and you have a learning orientation and you become more aware of how you are doing things and how you are put together or wired as a company, once you go and look across the border, you might start noticing things that you hadn't noticed before. Then the next word in that driver is how to exploit these asymmetries. So what do we mean by an exploitation? It doesn't sound very positive necessarily, but it basically means how can you take advantage of these differences, of these asymmetries. So exploitation is really a very important keyword, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go and buy cheap leather in another country. It could also mean that you are inspired by the way things are done differently, and that maybe you copy certain methods and decide to do those yourself. So it doesn't mean that you have to go out and take, or that you have to go out and conquer the market. Exploitation can also mean that you look at rules and regulations that maybe are ahead of those in your own country. So maybe you're in the electric vehicle market, and I look at Finland and I see they're way ahead in terms of rules and regulations. And I know these rules and regulations are going to come to my country as well in maybe 10 years or maybe 5 or 3 years from now. So I can start working with those and look at how companies in Finland dealt with these rules and regulations and learn from that for my own market. So those are some examples of asymmetry exploitation. Then the last one, and I think this one might be quite familiar to a lot of you as well, business model experimentation. And that really is the lean startup way of working, where as a business, you constantly build things, put things out there, measure, see what happens. Do people buy it? Do people react? And then learn from that. And then again, you know, adjust your product or your proposition. So this is an important last step. So once you find something that is different in another country, test it out and see if that could work for you. And that's why I'm going to end on this last slide, which is the SAI canvas, which I developed for my students based on Erkko Autio's framework. find asymmetry, fill it in on the top left-hand corner. Think of ways that you might be able to make good use of this asymmetry, so the difference between countries. So maybe there is a lot of knowledge in another country on something, and I want to make good use of that. Or maybe there is a special diet in German-speaking countries, which I think people in Holland would also like, but they're not going to buy a German language diet. So I probably need to translate that into Dutch. So the asymmetry is that Dutch people don't really speak German that well and wouldn't, so they don't have access to this product. So how could I exploit the asymmetries? Maybe I translate the German diet into Dutch, and all of a sudden this whole market could open up for me. How do I experiment? Well, maybe I could put some posts on social media and translate some core ideas out of this diet and put it on social media and see how people react to this. And how do I know? How do I measure? Well, maybe someone said something. Okay, accidental mic. Anyway, so how would I measure this? Maybe if so many people react positively, then this might be something. Or maybe, I go into conversation with people, and then I can learn from this. And if I meet a certain threshold, then maybe I can try more, maybe release a module or something in the market, or try something out with a small pilot group. So in summary, this is pretty much how you can test things internationally and start exploiting differences in other countries in a very early phase, because what you're basically doing is you're doing experiments on your competitive advantage to see if you can improve it and create an even better competitive advantage through something that you have come across the border. That is, in summary, what the SCI framework could do for your business. So I see I have come towards the end of my time block, and there might be 3 minutes left for questions. Are there any at this point? Okay.
Okay. So thank you, Maarten, for this very interesting input. I really like the idea that internationalization does not only mean to sell product abroad, but also to really learn from each other and to really get into the country's expertise. Maarten, what are your 1 or 2 learnings to what you want to give to the people out there?
Well, in fact, that it's never too early to have a look across, outside your own country, and it doesn't require a huge investment. You can stay at home. You can use the internet nowadays, and maybe a little bit of help of Google Translate or GPT Chat to explore other markets, even in Asia or outside of Europe, United States, and find winning ideas or information or methods that you can apply in your own business to stay ahead of your competition at home.
Perfect. Thanks. You're very on time, and I think when there are no other questions, I think we will move forward to our next speaker. We will go into a new topic, a technology that will affect us all in the future. I'm talking about artificial intelligence. And now we are introducing to our guest speaker. He's called Jan KINNE, and he's from the startup ISTARI, and they are doing automated market intelligence with web AI. And Jan KINNE is happy to present his path to get a startup very successful, and to share the journey, and also to introduce to his company. So Jan, you're ready to share your screen? Thank you.
Yeah, hi. Thank you very much. Can you also just confirm very quickly that you can actually see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, so hi everybody. My name is Jan. I'm one of the co-founders of ISTARI Artificial Intelligence. We are a startup company based in Mannheim, Germany. That's between Stuttgart and Frankfurt, for those of you who don't know. Usually, if you bring guests to Mannheim, you immediately take them to Heidelberg, which is close by and very beautiful, because Mannheim is not that beautiful actually. But still, I can tell you that there is a very lively startup culture, startup community here in Mannheim. And I also started out as a student or at the University of Heidelberg, actually. So my background is in geography/geoinformatics. So if you have no idea what geoinformatics is, just imagine Google Maps. Then you have a pretty exact picture, I think. However, I started working at a economic research institute quite early on, actually during my second bachelor semester. And so this economic research institute is called the Center for European Economic Research. It's in Mannheim, and it's one of the big German ones. And so this is also when I got started with company databases, so databases that include companies. And after my studies, I also started a PhD. And during my PhD, I continued working with company databases, and especially I was looking at innovation in companies. So I wanted to know whether companies that are close by to each other, whether they come up with different innovations, how innovative companies influence each other if they are closely by, so geographically close. And the problem back then was that it's very, very difficult to actually, or it's very difficult to measure innovation in general. There are some standardized schemes, let's say, to measure innovation. So, for example, we followed the OECD definition that a innovative company is a company that launches new products or services to the market. There are many more. We stick with that one. However, it's difficult to actually know what companies do that. And then the usual way to do or to get to know whether a company launched new products, for example, is to ask them, right? So you send out a questionnaire, you conduct a survey, and then you know for some companies whether they are innovative or not. And then you can use this, maybe if you have done it like scientifically sound, you can actually extrapolate your survey results to the overall firm population. But you can imagine that it's very costly to do that, right? So for example, at ZEW, we did this, or the ZEW actually did this for over 30 years. They conduct the German Community Innovation Survey, which is the German part of a Europe-wide innovation survey, where they ask about 20,000 companies per year whether they are innovative or not. And our idea was, during my PhD, to actually measure or try to measure whether a company is innovative just based on their website. Right. So what we did is, that was in 2018. So back then there was, NLP, so natural language processing, or AI for text, you could say, wasn't that famous back then. So now we just heard about ChatGPT for the first time. It's everybody knows now, right? But back then it wasn't that well known. And we had this idea to use such tools to automatically analyze the websites of companies to determine whether they are innovative or not, just based on the website text. And this actually worked pretty well. And based on our scientific results, we decided, let's start a company. So pretty naive. So we had no previous, this is not only myself, but also my co-founder, and back then my co-author, David. We were very naive and said, let's just start a company, because there's much more to find out about companies from their websites than just whether they are innovative or not. And this is how ISTARI got started in 2019. And since then, a lot has changed. Maybe in the first 1.5 years, not a lot has changed, because we were very much focused on our PhD, did full-time research, and in our free time, we developed a company. It was mostly about technology in the beginning. And in late 2020, we got some business angel investment. And so if you have questions about that later on, I can also tell you a little bit about financing and stuff like that. And and with that money, we actually started out and moved into our first office in early 2021. And since then, we are working on ISTARI, and now first I want to show you a little bit about what we actually do at ISTARI and how we developed over the years. And then I also, if we have enough time, I want to show you a really short live demonstration of our current product. And then if we have more time left, then I'm also free to questions. So yeah, our slogan is automated market intelligence, which means that we want, and this is basically exactly what we want to do. So the problem we are tackling is that the search for company and market information is very time consuming and costly. So if you want to know something about companies, for example, that are active in a specific technology, and there is no information on that in a traditional company database, which is usually the case, it's very time consuming to go out and research this information on your own. And what we do is we want to automate that with AI. So we want to, or we build an AI automated research tool for individual use cases. So you have an individual use case in mind. Maybe you want to know about your region, for example. You want to know what companies in my region actually do AI, for example, and we can help you with that. And for this, we built Web AI. That's our technology, which is special because it allows global, or it makes reliable global company search possible. Okay, so let's think of one example use case. Let's say someone wants to know about all the developers of 3D printing technology for semiconductors. So it's a very specific question, right? And to know about all the companies in globally is very challenging. So what we do is we go out and we scrape the websites of all existing companies. So here it says 100 million. Currently, we are at 20 million because we do this for Europe and North America. But the idea and the vision, let's say, is to do this also globally. And we hope to do this later this year. And then we are talking about 100 million companies with their own website globally. We scrape all the contents of their websites, which would give us about 5,000 billion characters, so a lot of text, really a lot of text, so really like a lot. And then what we apply is our own like filtering, and this is a big part of our IP. So we developed a lot of like smart filtering tools, let's say, to filter down those companies to, let's say, 10,000 candidate firms. So 10,000 out of 100 million, 10,000 firms out of 100 million may actually be engaged in this technology, right? And this, we can do this very cost efficient. Okay, so like 7,500 euros once for R&D, and then we have some additional compute that is very cheap. So in the long run, it's very cheap for us to search for those companies over and over again. And why can we do this? Because, and this is really in our DNA, let's say. So we have this, we come from a scientific background, and we still have very like strong ties to academia, to the scientific community, and they help us not only to develop our AI models, but also to test them and to apply them. So what we do is we have this thing, it's called the ISTARI Research Partner Program, where we share data with our partners from academia, so they can use the data in external studies to validate the stuff that we produce, basically, right? So that's very important for us. And then in the next step, we can apply the normal, let's say, LLM models that are available to everyone, right? So we as a small company, we are not able to train a new like foundation model at the same like level of OpenAI, for example, or all those other players, the big tech companies, but we can use those models to do very specific follow-up studies on the companies that we previously filtered, right? So we have those 10,000 candidate firms, for example, and then we look at those 10,000 firms in a second step, and then we derive a very specific information from the text using standard out-of-the-box LLMs, let's say. And the big difference is that we can generate these results for very low costs, right? So we have those 5,000 companies with very low costs in the end, compared to a pure LLM approach, where you just throw an LLM like API calls at 100 million companies, and you have to pay like 7 million euros to do that, because right now LLMs are actually very expensive, especially if you apply them at a large scale. Okay, so you save like 99.99% of your costs. So this is basically what we do. And I told you a little bit about where we are actually from already. So we started out with PhD research, where we have established a scientific basis. We had several like proof of concepts developed, and that was in 2019 to 2020. Then we actually started a company properly. And we call this our project-based business phase. So in the first like 2 years, we started to have customers from all over the DACH region, so Austria, Germany, and Switzerland. And we had some customers from Scandinavia, mostly from academia, because this is where we came from, but also our first public customers, right? So the like chambers of, not chambers of commerce, but ministries or municipalities, for example. But even back then, we knew that in fact, we want to launch, or we want to become a software as a service company. We wanted to have a standardized product and not only help those clients with individual projects. So in our next step, we became what now we are calling a data as a service company. So last year, actually just like 9 months ago or so, we started our first like subscription product. It's a online platform where you can become a customer and you can search for companies. So you can search for very specific companies, then you have a list of those companies and you can download the list. So it's a really like data, it's a data product, let's say. But even back then, we realized, or we've shortly realized, that most of our customers, they actually lack the skills or the experience to do follow-up stuff with that data. So then they have this list of companies, but then they have additional questions and they come back to us and say, hey guys, nice company list, but can you please go again on the websites and do X, Y, Z, right? So this is why we decided to now go the next step, and we now say, we're becoming now a information as a service company, meaning we just recently launched our new Web AI platform 2.0, where we are aiming for, here it says 200 million, it's actually 100 million, where we're aiming for like a global coverage of 100 million companies. But the important thing is we go beyond this pure like selection of companies, and we are currently launching, we call them use case modules. So those are like downstream algorithms, let's say, that allow you to do additional specific things on your data. And I will show you in a second what those things can be, right? So what this means is, as a first step, you always, in our case, you first select the market that is of interest to you. So for example, as we said, maybe all the 3D printing technology companies that are also doing something with semiconductors. You get a list of companies, and then you can launch one of our many like use case modules that we have planned, and some of them are already available. So for example, we have one set of use case modules that are geared towards salespeople. So in our data, what we also have is contact information about the companies, for example, like phone numbers, emails, stuff like that. And in those additional modules, you can, for example, enter a outreach email. You have like a template, and then you can say, okay, for all the companies that I have in my list, maybe 1,000 or 2,000, please adapt this outreach email to match this specific customer, right? This would be one use case. Or in the insights module, which is like our main module, it's not our main module, our main set of modules. It's mostly geared towards regional analysts. What we do there is you can, for example, if you have your set of companies, you can do simple things like just creating a map, right? Because a lot of people from these regional economic developers, they have to write reports, for example, and then their boss comes and says, hey, how many AI companies do we have in our region? And then this analyst has to start, looking for how many companies there are that do AI. And then maybe they just want to have a simple map or a simple figure that just they can put in into their report right away. So we offer this, but we offer also other more sophisticated stuff, like, for example, extracting additional information from the company websites, like the products that companies are offering or people and stuff like that. We are also looking at a lot of like other use cases currently, having a lot of talks with corporates, because as you can see, currently we are mostly in the like, you can also see this on the next slide. We are mostly in the B2G area, so business to government. So most of our customers currently are from the public or semi-public sector. I mean, this is also a very European thing, right? So every region has those like semi-public things going on where the industry and public come together to promote economic growth in the region. Those are our main customers currently. We have some customers also in the lead area, or we have B2B customers, but also competition is very tough in the lead generation market, let's say. And this is why We are currently looking for additional use cases because our platform in general is very, very like adaptive. We can tackle actually a lot of different use cases, which sometimes is also a problem because you have to decide for one. And this is why we are doing a lot of exploration currently with potential customers to see where our like next step should lead us, so to say. So I will actually skip this slide here and just tell you very shortly something about the people who work there here. So this is before I went to the hairdresser. So this is still with long hair, and this is one of my other co-founders, David, and this is Robert, also one of my co-founders who joined like 1 year after we started the company. And as I said, we are located in Mannheim. But we, currently we are like, I think next month we are like 20 people. However, we have a lot of like student assistants, working students, because, as I said, close connections to the university, and in like full-time equivalents, we are like 7, I think, something like that. So we grew a little bit about the past few years, but it's not like we're not hyper scaling, right? We're not like a super hyper scaling company. It's more like rather slow and more like organic growth that we had in the past years. So in the last 5 minutes, and then we have 10 more minutes for questions, I think I will just very briefly show you. So I guess you can now see this others window, right? I think so. Yeah, okay. So let's just log in. So this is basically the platform that we now have. And let's say we are maybe interested in, let's start with the semiconductors, right? So I can just say like semiconductor. And what we do now is we search our database of currently like 20 million companies in Europe and North America for the word semiconductor. So very simple in the beginning. And we found like 40,000 companies. Okay, so we can also zoom in. Not all of them are shown here because it would be too much. I think we show like 1,000 companies at once in the map, but we have like 40,000. We found like 40,000 in total. And maybe we want to add some additional words. We also have a keyword generator that goes online, I think, next week, which helps you also to generate more keywords and also translate them between different languages. In the background, as in the back end, you don't see it, but then it's also searching for different languages. We could also say something like maybe microchip. Okay, so we're saying, okay, the company we're looking for must have at least one of those words, semiconductor or microchip, which gives us now like 64,000 companies. And in the next step, we could say something like, okay, actually, I'm only interested in the United States of America. So this reduces our set of companies to like 37,000, okay, all over the US. And in the next step, maybe, so I will just go for Massachusetts because we've just been there last week. And then we have like 1,460. And maybe it's just the Boston, Cambridge, Newton area that I'm actually interested in. And then you see we can further zoom in to the region basically. And in this region, we still have like 1,160 companies. And we can also click here and see what kind of companies those are. So I think right now we have a lot of different companies here because we're just looking for like microchip and semiconductor. And there are a lot of reasons company may actually say that. And this is where our other like indicators come into play. We have quite a lot of them. So for example, here we have the additive manufacturing intensity level, it is called. Quite a mouthful, but it basically tells you the higher the score is, the more likely this company is actually very much engaged in additive manufacturing, which is basically 3D printing. And you can say, okay, I only want to see those with a very high, or let's go with the very high additive manufacturing score. And then we are suddenly just at 11 companies, have some hits here. You can also have a look. So for example, this company, 3D Systems, they say they do cutting edge 3D printing technologies from office to factory floor. And you can already see they do like 3D printers, healthcare solution, industrial solutions, and so on. So a lot of like different things and exactly the type of company I think we were looking for. And so gives us like 11 companies. And we can also have a look at what specific keywords they actually say. And for example, Z-Core, they say stuff like bioprinting, additive manufacturing, 3D printing, stereolithography, selective laser sintering, and so on and so on. So what we do here is we also search for keywords from the additive manufacturing realm that may be connected to this topic, right? But it's not like we're not just counting how many keywords they say, but instead we are actually looking at each individual keyword hit in its context, and only if we see, okay, it's actually about 3D printing, we increase the score of the company, okay? Yeah, and what you can do then is you can basically save this, say, okay, I don't know, 3D printers, for example, save the company list, and then you can go on to do additional stuff with this data. So the simplest one would be just to download it, right? So you can click download data, and then you can say, okay, I want to have this as an Excel, for example, and then you can say, okay, I want to buy this. It costs like 11 credits, which is like €1, and you can say download. That's it. And the thing that I talked about with the modules, I can very briefly show you this before I stop. So you can see, for example, here we have a Web AI classifier, which basically allows you to describe a class or a type of company, let's say. Maybe the first the first category you would come up with would be manufacturer, and you could describe it in like, okay, a company that develops and produces 3D printers. And maybe your second category would be like service providers, and then you could say a company that helps other companies to set up 3D printers. That would be your second category. And then we have an LLM looking at each individual company in your list and assigning a category to it, right? And we have a lot of other like modules in the making. So we just, as I said, we just launched this platform like 4 or 5 weeks ago or so. So we are currently setting this up, but this is basically the way forward for us. Okay, so I have like 8 minutes left for questions if there are any. Thank you very much also.
Hi, Jan. Paiman is speaking. I have a very short question. I know your product for sure, but do you see or do you have, as we are discussing about startups as well and innovation in the previous presentation as well, is there any special offer for startups because they are facing always the problem they want to enter market and normally they have really struggling. They are struggling to find out who is acting in the market, which customers are there. Are there any special offers for the segment startups as well?
Mm-hmm. So I can give you 2 answers to that. So the first one is we actually thought about something like that because especially this what you just said, that companies want to know about a market, and we have this one module in the making. It's called Web AI Market Size, that basically tells you about the market size of your the size of the market you're interested in. Because currently what you can do is you can search for companies that are active in a specific area. Then you have a number of companies that do that. But what we are also looking at is to basically buy third-party like financial information about the companies, because then you can also get a number that tells you about the total revenue, for example, of the current market you're interested in, right? So that's the first part of my answer. And the second one is, if you go to our website, so we basically have, as I said, we have those 2 main products or subscription currently. It's Web AI Lead and Web AI Insights. And Web AI Lead, there, if you go down, we actually have a free version where you can start with some free credits, so you can actually start using it right away. And so it's definitely something for startups that first want to try it out. Yeah, so I would say yes, we have something for startups, not specifically, but definitely something that also suits startups.
Okay, thank you. Second minor question, as there are today many European guests and I think universities attending as well. Do you see any applications for them, for example, where they could use your instrument for their need or use?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of universities are actually customers. They usually go for the Web AI Insights, which starts at like €2,500 per year, which gives you also access to all those indicators I showed you. So, for example, whether a company is engaged in sustainability, whether they do AI. So you don't only have those like keyword searches, but you also have those very reliable indicators that we produce that are widely used in academia. So you can see this up here. So FFG, for example, was a customer with us. ZDW, I mean, yes. Also, this ZGIS, it's actually the University of Salzburg, for example, DLR from Germany. We have universities like Hohenheim, Mannheim is a customer. We have the Technical University of Munich. We have a Norwegian university. We have people from Luxembourg and so on. So we have a lot of like university customers that are usually interested in huge data sets, right? So microdata about companies to do economic research. And what I can also tell you, this is not part of the standard product, but we can also look back in time into a historical company data or company websites to have like time series data, which is also possible. That's
Thank you very much. Yeah,
sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? I have like 3 minutes left, so one question with a short answer would be possible.
What is meant with this note in the chat, maybe? It's from Romana.
I don't see it, or I don't know.
This would be really nice add-on for E³UDRES side and for the 9 partners for our stakeholder mapping.
Sure, I mean, I can always only agree if someone says that our product is suitable for XYZ. I would say yes, it's definitely very suitable. So without knowing exactly what it means, but yeah. So if you're interested, just let me know. You find me and the company on LinkedIn. Very happy to connect. Otherwise, yeah. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jan. I would have a final question to you. When you look back the last years, you started very early in the AI sector. Now I think you will have the competition is growing every day with this in this field. And when we come back to the innovation and entrepreneurial mindset, what do you think is the mental skill? What needs to be to have a successful entrepreneur and innovator? What's the skill? Yeah.
I would say it's the same like from also normal people, which is I think in the future even more than in the past, lifelong learning is very difficult. It's very difficult, but very important. I wanted to say, sorry. So it's a very important skill to be able and to be willing to learn new stuff. Especially currently especially in the AI world, it's moving so fast. Stuff is now possible that wasn't possible at all like just 3 years ago. And if I look back 6 years, it changed so much. And I think you always have to be open, willing to try new stuff, and also be willing to adapt your plans to new circumstances, right? To be willing to, for example, now it became very easy to do AI. In fact, to use AI, I should say, it became very easy. Just you have to call an API, and it's super easy to classify text and stuff like that. 5 years ago, we had to write our own models. We had to train them. It took a lot of time. And now it basically takes away some of your like defendable stuff that you had. But on the other hand, it opens up a lot of new opportunities, right? So, and you always have to, I think it's very important to be open-minded there and willing to learn. Yeah, I would say that's important.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks a lot. So we are in time. Are there any other questions? Please raise your hands or turn on your mic. We can answer it. I think we have 1 to 2 minutes for Jan.
What are the next steps, Jan?
For us, sure. So our next steps, I mean, I said something about that already in my presentation. It's about use case exploration with corporates. Very important for us right now. On the other hand, there's a lot of internal stuff we have to do, right? There's always work. So I would say another important thing for us currently is to bring out those modules that we have planned. We're working hard on that. What's also important, yeah, we are also still so we just had a financing round, and we're just like we are basically preparing the second closing of this round. This is also something we are working on to give us like at least like 1 or 2 years of predictable working time, right, where we can concentrate on actually working and not raising money, because it's very exhausting to do that. Everyone who did it knows it's you always say after fundraising is before fundraising, but I'm very happy if I can push this somewhat in the future. So that's very important for us. We're also looking at the US market. So we just got our first US customer actually, or it's actually our second one. Now we have 2 customers there. We were talking also, I've just been to the US until Saturday, and we've talked to US investors there as well. Very interesting people, also different mindset to Europe. It is actually like everybody says so, but it's true actually, I would say, for some. So at least for the investors, I would say it's somewhat of a different mindset. Very interesting, and we're also working on that. Yeah.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you. Thank you, Jan. It was very inspiring and interesting, and good luck for your further journey.
Next steps. Okay.
All right, so we are now moving on with the open lecture. We are going more north to Finland, and we are happy to have our third lecturer. He's called JUHA HAUTANEN. I hope I pronounced it in the right way. He's E³UDRES team member and also head of RDE department of Jamk, University of Applied Sciences in Finland. And he will give us an introduction how we can create value for our end customer, and he gives us a new way of thinking. So JUHA, thanks. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Birgit. And before we start, I have one disclaimer. Finland itself, it's a rural area, but especially at the moment, I'm in the countryside, and sometimes our network is not very stable. So if there is some kind of network breakouts, don't mind of that. I'll be back pretty soon. But so far, it looks very good one. So my name is JUHA, as Birgit you just mentioned, and I'm happy to tell something you about the users in the innovation process and what is their role. And a couple words about my background. In fact, in the introduction, it is said that I'm head of department at the School of Professional Teacher Education, but before those days, I were responsible of the entrepreneurship and innovation education at our university, those general courses. But before that, I were engaged to different kind of well-being and wellness innovation systems. And I were also responsible of the business development in the regional area. And in same time, I were teaching the subject which name was the psychology of design. So what everyone should know about the human beings when we are designing something for them. So they can be physical products, or they can be services, or whatever we are doing. And why I were interested about that one, my background is in the engineering, but I realized pretty soon that when we are in the research, in the R&D processes and making a new product or businesses for the end users, we should know them better than we used to know. So it's not just developing technology, not just developing services, but we should make something for them. And that's the reason why it is interesting to be after you, Martin. Thank you for your presentation about the differentiation between different cultures. And also, Jan, your presentation was also very interesting to understand the way how you are able to harvest from the data, understanding and insight of people and also different organizations. So I will share my presentation just a second. Just a second, here it is. So the topic of my presentation, well, it came suddenly, it was about, it is a supply push or demand pull. So which one it is the most important? The users in their innovation process. And before we start, I would ask you one question. So the question is that, I just try to change my slide. Here we go. So what do we need to start a new business? So what do we need to start it? And to answer it, I make a Menti questionnaire for that, and you can use a QR code to answer it. And I will also, I have only one extra screen here, so I will also share you the link in the chat for this questionnaire. So let's take a couple of minutes to answer it, and now I have to try to find my way back to the presentation. I'm a little bit afraid that I'm too scared, trying to be too clever. Here it is, and now you can find the link from the chat as well. And so there will be the word cloud. And I've got 12 responses already, and more is coming. And I will share the results for you. Hope you can see it now. Can you see the word cloud? Birgit, could you?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. I have to go there again and share it is. Where they are. Nah. Sorry. Not yet, but can you see now something?
No, only the QR code. But
All right. Yeah. I try to do it once again. Okay.
I can do it. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Now it's working.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So, yeah, thanks. Thanks for your answer. So here you can see it is like a frequency analysis. So you can see what kind of things according your replace, what are used or what are needed to start a new business. The idea, it is most answers, then product, skills, mindset, and so on. And I think that network, yeah, it is needed to create something together, to have our money to invest in to your system. But there is two words which I would combine with their product. It is a client and there is a markets. And now we go back to my presentation. Let's see how it's okay. I will do it. I share the separate screen. So what is needed? So I think that what there's two things which are I think what are needed. Of course, something what we are offering for and what we are making, and for whom we are making, we need to have a customer and we need to have a client. And what is needed, we need to have a fit between those two things. So we need to have something to offer to someone. And without the customer, there is no sense to make any product or solutions. And we need to have these something if we like to make a business and earn some profit. We need to have something what we are able to offer to the end users. So that is what I were looking for, and there is. For example, I believe that many of you have seen this business model canvas, which is created by Alexander Osterwalder, and it is very widely used. And I have one friend who is an industrial designer, and as I mentioned, my background is engineering, and we are arguing very often with this. So which part we should start from? So should we start from the product? As an engineer and as I'm keen on the technology and solutions, I would like to start there. Or should and he's saying that so we have to start from the customer and they need. So this is this my main question in the topic of this presentation. So should we start from the value proposition or from the product, or should we start from the need or demand of the customers? And I have also the other question to make you, but in fact I will skip to save some time. I will skip it and go back to this older cartoon which you have probably seen before. So if we start from the demand of the customer, so what the customers are saying or what the users are saying, and how we are understanding it, and when we are communicating it to the for example in this example to the requirements, and when we will design the solution and what we will build up and what the customer really needs. So can we use the understanding or these interviews of the customers and ask, if you are asking from the customer what they need, they describe the things which they know already, but they don't know that they could have something more. So, oh, sorry, I jumped to wrong slide, and somehow there's something going on here. So what it is said or this is a Henry Ford quote. So if I would ask my customer what they want, they would have said the faster horses, since they didn't have their even imagine about the car. And in fact, Henry Ford himself, he didn't invented a car. Car has invented a couple decades before this T model Ford. But what the Henry Ford invented was that he invented or he had a vision to create the car with this reasonable price, and he measured what is the reasonable price. So he got a standard person, a standard citizen, and it was a teacher, and he put the price level to the car. It should cost not more than half of year incomes of the teacher. So now you have some kind of realistic idea. So how much in real money the T model Fords paid on those days when they were invented. But the main message is that when we ask from the end user or from the customer, do they know what they really need? So talking about the product itself. So what kind of product? So of course we could create any kind of product, but of course they should fit to their end users, and they should fit to the customers. So let's have one example, and let's think. For instance, motorcycles. When I was born, at home we got this kind of motorcycle. My father took his work trip by this motorcycle. And why is that? It's not so since it was a cool, but we didn't have afford for the car. And couple years, or in fact 1 year later, when I was born, our family or my family bought a car for us. Since before that, when our family was traveling from place to the other, it looked like this. So, but of course, you know that the cars and as a motorcycles were on those days, they were used to travel from the place A to the place B. But when you have a car, it's not depend so much on their weather conditions. My father, for example, he got the skis integrated to the motorcycle, so he was able to ride in the winter as well. But it's not so. Its car is more convenient. It's more convenient for the more people. It's more convenient for to take care of some other goods inside of a car. But anyhow, car is invented. People have afford for the cars, but there is a lot of motorcycles. And why is that? Well, in the 50s, there was a movie which was called as The Wild One. Marlon Brando was there. One guy who got a role in this movie, and after that, during 60s, there was the Great Escape, where Steve McQueen were driving the 3 motorcycles. It was quite cool. In the 70s, early 70s, there was Dennis Hopper and Henry Fonda in the Easy Rider movie. So the riding the motorcycle, it got some kind of more emotional meaning. So it is a great feeling to ride by motorcycle, and you are perhaps cool when you are driving the motorcycle. So as a marketing executive from the Harley Davidson, it's saying, so what they are selling. So they are not selling the motorcycles. They are selling the ability that their 43-year-old account to dress in black leather right through small towns and have people to be afraid of him. So it's more like you're selling the emotion and feelings. We can talk about the job to be done. So what is this result, or what is the product? So we have this product, or I calling it as a job in this case. So it can have a functional meaning. So like in motorcycle, it is moving from the place A to place B. But we have to be thinking of what is the root what we are solving. So what is the real question what we are solving? We don't need 10 millimeters drills, but we need the 10 millimeters holes. If we are able to produce those holes without drills, we can do it, and there is an open market. So what is this functional meaning? But also, in same time, we have to think about the emotional meaning. So how I feel, what I think, what are my expectations on the thing. So it is like riding the motorcycle, how you feel it. And the third one, it is a social dimension. So what others are doing, how does this affect to my social status, what my neighbors are thinking about, and so on. And for example, I'm wearing this kind of sport watch with me, and quite often when we are carrying this kind of devices or gadgets, we are sending in same time some kind of message from us. So like I'm interested about sports and so on, or they can be a green values or that kind things. So when we are inventing something, we need to know for what purpose we are doing that. So what are the innovations? So innovations and inventions are pretty often they are thinking that they are equal, but in fact they are not equal. Inventions, they can be a raw material for the innovations, but innovations, they should be somehow sustainable in an economical way. They have to produce some value for the end user, for the customer. So invention, it is just a pure knowledge. It is received to create a goods or services. And there was a couple slides was missing. But what is there in innovation? Innovation, it is inventions added with insight. So insight, it is an understanding of client, understanding of a market, and understanding of behavior of the individuals. And when we are adding it to the inventions, we are able to get their innovations. So back to these supply path or demand pool. So when we have an idea, and then we are able to create the product. So idea, it is a product. Then when we have a market for it, and from the idea to the product, it is in between of those, there is a prototype where we have to test the feasibility, but also we have to test it how it fits to the markets. So there is end users or customers on the end of that. So when the end user or customer asks, "Can you create something for me?" So that we can call as a demand pool. But when the inventor is inventing something, it is called as the supply push. So what to do? It is we need to test the idea with the end user, coming it's from the user it's themselves, or especially when it's coming from the inventor. So I put those balloons a little bit different orientation. So when the user give the product idea or inventor give the product idea, we create some kind of prototype. And then when we have a prototype, we have to test it by the end user, how well it fit to them. And then we have a feedback to the inventor, and we make a next round of that. So inventor improve the idea, improve the prototype, test it again, and then at the end of the day, we have the product to the end users. So there is no, on my point of view, there is no answer, there is no such a right answer, which one is better, demand pull or supply push. Those both are needed and both are good. Both good, but what I need it is that we need to create a prototype. We need to test it by the end users, and then we have a product which fit to the market. Thank you. That was my presentation this time.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the audience? Please feel free to ask Juha, or any comments or remarks. No? All right, then I think we're pretty far finished. We are almost 4:30. We made it in time. I would like to say a big thank you for all the presenters and also the participants who spent the time with us. We are really looking forward for our next open lecture. It will be in fall this year, so in September 24. We will send you the information when we come up with a new topic, and we'll have two more minutes from you. I will put a poll into the chat to have a short feedback on the open lecture and also to vote for the next topics of the open lecture. So please give us another 2 minutes, and I wish you a nice evening, and thanks for joining, and see you soon. Thank you.